It all started with a single, devastating remark, one sentence that ricocheted across the globe, leaving a trail of royal shockwaves in its wake. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are clowns. William and Kate? True royals. Those words, spoken by none other than David Beckham, landed like a thunderclap in an already tense royal landscape. The timing couldn't have been more brutal. Just as Prince William and Kate Middleton attended a dazzling German state banquet, their every move polished, graceful, and picture-perfect, Harry and Meghan were reportedly seething thousands of miles away, their frustration boiling over in ways the world could only speculate about. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. But how did it come to this? How did two of the most famous figures on the planet, people who once seemed inseparable from the royal narrative, find themselves on the receiving end of such scathing public criticism? And why does this matter now more than ever, as the monarchy navigates the delicate balance between tradition and global celebrity culture? The German state banquet itself was nothing short of a spectacle. Picture the grand halls, the sparkling chandeliers, the meticulous etiquette, the carefully choreographed introductions to heads of state. Every gesture, every smile, every glance had been analyzed by the international media long before the evening ended. William and Kate glided through the event with elegance that seemed effortless, earning headlines that praised their poise, diplomacy, and the unmistakable aura of royalty. Photographs captured their interactions with German dignitaries, their laughter at carefully timed jokes, and the unmistakable chemistry between them that reminded the public why they were considered the future of the monarchy. In contrast, Harry and Meghan's absence was more than symbolic. It was a statement, but it was also a vulnerability, one that David Beckham apparently did not hesitate to exploit. Known globally not just for his footballing genius, but also for his celebrity social presence, Beckham's words carried weight, bridging the worlds of sports, fashion, and cultural influence. When someone like Beckham labels a couple clowns, it isn't merely an offhand insult. It's a moment that reverberates through every media outlet, every social feed, every royal commentary. The sting for Harry and Meghan, who have long struggled with their public image post-royal exit, was immediate and undeniable. The public reaction was electric. Within hours, the remark had gone viral. Social media erupted with heated debates, memes, and speculative commentary. Some praised Beckham for his blunt honesty, seeing it as a refreshing reminder of William and Kate's steadfastness in comparison. Others accused him of unfairly targeting Harry and Meghan, highlighting the already fraught dynamics surrounding their media coverage. For the couple themselves, however, the response was not just embarrassment, it was personal. Sources close to the Sussexes claimed the comment triggered a wave of private fury, intensifying feelings of resentment and perceived betrayal. What makes this situation particularly compelling is the convergence of multiple factors: celebrity, royalty, media manipulation, and human emotion. On one hand, you have the highly disciplined public image of William and Kate, cultivated over years of meticulous public engagement, professional advice, and an intuitive grasp of diplomacy. On the other hand, there's Harry and Meghan, whose journey has been marked by a deliberate break from royal tradition, a desire to control their own narrative, and repeated clashes with the very institution they were born or married into. Beckham's comment, therefore, acts as a catalyst that ignites underlying tensions, forcing both the public and the palace to confront questions long simmering beneath the surface: who truly embodies royal dignity, and who is merely chasing celebrity attention under the guise of royalty? The stakes are not just personal, they are political, cultural, and financial. Harry and Meghan's public ventures, interviews, and media appearances have created immense scrutiny, not only from the tabloids, but also from serious political commentators and royal historians. Each perceived misstep is magnified. Each snub or criticism, such as Beckham's, adds fuel to a narrative that has been meticulously spun by observers for years, that the Sussexes are at odds with the monarchy, with public opinion, and even with themselves. Meanwhile, William and Kate, whose lives are carefully interwoven with the traditions of the crown, benefit from a contrasting narrative of stability, responsibility, and authenticity. The comparison is sharp, almost cruel, and it has Harry and Meghan at the center of a storm they cannot easily control. Adding layers of drama, whispers from royal insiders suggest that Harry and Meghan's response was far from muted. Private communications reportedly included heated exchanges, publicists scrambling to craft defensive statements, and an emotional whirlwind that spilled over into their personal lives. Friends and acquaintances of the couple described scenes of frustration and agitation, fueled by the belief that the world was misrepresenting them, or worse, aligning against them in ways they could not influence. This is not just a story of public criticism. It is a story of perceived betrayal, family tension, and the crushing weight of expectation that comes with the modern royal spotlight. For the audience watching from afar, there is an irresistible tension. Who is right? Who deserves public sympathy? And, crucially, what does this episode reveal about the evolving nature of the monarchy in the 21st century? The contrast between William and Kate's composed, almost effortless public persona and Harry and Meghan's perceived volatility is striking. It forces a conversation about identity, duty, and the delicate balance between personal desire and institutional expectation. Every smile, every frown, every media comment now carries meaning beyond the immediate moment, rippling across social media, news outlets, and royal commentary shows worldwide. Perhaps what is most captivating about this story is the human element. Beyond the headlines, beyond the viral videos and social media outrage, there are real people. Siblings, spouses, and friends, whose emotions are raw, immediate, and deeply personal. Harry and Meghan's anger is not merely about a comment. It is about recognition, validation, and perceived fairness. Beckham's words, blunt and public, amplify insecurities and old wounds, pushing the couple into a reaction that is as much emotional as it is strategic. The audience becomes complicit in the unfolding drama, drawn into a narrative that is part reality, part spectacle, and entirely human. And while the public watches William and Kate receive accolades for their state banquet performance, Harry and Meghan's narrative is building toward a crescendo. The question looming over the entire saga is whether this feud will remain a simmering tension or explode into a confrontation that has consequences for both public perception and the monarchy itself. Royal experts and gossip columns alike are teeming with speculation, yet the truth remains tantalizingly elusive. Every new leak, every subtle remark, every viral social post adds another layer of intrigue. So why does this story matter now? The timing is everything. In an era where royal reputation can influence international relations, public opinion, and even philanthropic effectiveness, the contrast between the Sussexes and the Cambridge family could not be more consequential. The world is watching, dissecting, and debating. Not just because of celebrity curiosity, but because it reveals the fault lines within one of the most iconic families on the planet. Beckham's comment is more than a remark. It is a mirror reflecting the ongoing tension between duty and desire, tradition and modernity, expectation and reality. But as the evening in Germany unfolded, as William and Kate basked in accolades and diplomatic applause, Harry and Meghan's next move remained unknown. Were they plotting a public response, retreating into private frustration, or preparing something more dramatic that would force the world to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the royal family? One thing was certain. The German state banquet was set to be one of the most elegant, high-profile events of the year, and every detail was meticulously planned. From the glimmering chandeliers in the hall to the precisely arranged floral displays, it was the kind of event where the world watches every gesture, every glance, and every smile. For Prince William and Kate Middleton, this banquet was not just a diplomatic obligation. It was a chance to reinforce their image as the embodiment of modern royalty. Their every step, from the red carpet entrance to the perfectly timed wave at the waiting cameras, was scrutinized, celebrated, and recorded by media outlets around the globe. The couple arrived in coordinated sophistication. William's tailored suit fit impeccably, projecting calm authority, while Kate's gown, a striking blend of regal elegance and contemporary fashion, was an instant headline generator. Photographers and journalists were in awe, capturing every moment as the couple gracefully interacted with German dignitaries, engaged in diplomatic conversation, and shared light, charming smiles. Social media instantly exploded with praise, with commentators lauding Kate as a vision of poise and William as the quintessential diplomat. Their synergy was palpable, the kind that speaks louder than words. The banquet itself was a spectacle in its own right. Crystal glasses clinked delicately as servers moved with military-like precision, and the room hummed with a sense of tradition, power, and meticulous order. Every element, from seating arrangements to the presentation of meals, was designed to showcase German hospitality while honoring the visiting royals. William and Kate were the centerpiece, embodying the perfect blend of tradition and approachability. They laughed with genuine warmth at jokes made by officials, nodded thoughtfully at conversations about European diplomacy, and radiated a calm confidence that came naturally from years of experience navigating these high-stakes social waters. But even as the world celebrated William and Kate's performance, there was an undercurrent that made this moment far more dramatic than any headline suggested. Thousands of miles away, Harry and Meghan were reportedly watching. Their absence, though intentional, created a sharp contrast. William and Kate's poised elegance was amplified by what they were not. There were no media stunts, no provocative statements, no headline-grabbing antics. Just regal presence, refined gestures, and the unmistakable air of authority that only comes from being thoroughly comfortable in one's role. Analysts were quick to note the dichotomy. William and Kate were being praised for embodying true royalty, while Harry and Meghan's public appearances had been increasingly described as performative or calculated. The German banquet served as a vivid illustration of this contrast. Every photo, every video clip, every tweet seemed to reinforce the narrative that the Cambridges had mastered the art of balancing modern relatability with centuries-old tradition, while the Sussexes struggled to maintain credibility in a world that scrutinized them relentlessly. Inside the banquet hall, the atmosphere was electric. Diplomats and dignitaries seemed captivated by William and Kate's charm. Observers noted subtle cues. The way Kate lightly touched a dignitary's arm while laughing, William's measured yet warm handshake, the careful attention they gave to conversations with both ministers and ambassadors. These small gestures, seemingly minor, were magnified by the media, reinforcing a story of meticulous preparation meeting natural elegance. The couple moved as though they were choreographed, yet everything appeared effortless. That effortless mastery is precisely what many commentators argued made them true royals. Meanwhile, commentary on Harry and Meghan's absence was immediate and vocal. Some speculated that the Sussexes were watching, frustrated and feeling slighted, while others suggested that their absence was strategic, a deliberate statement about their independence from royal protocol. But the timing, juxtaposed against William and Kate's glowing public reception, only intensified scrutiny. Social media feeds overflowed with comparisons. Headlines screamed contrasts. Cambridges shine in Germany while Sussexes stay home. True royalty versus celebrity royals. The tale of two couples, and Beckham weighs in. Clowns versus true royals. Every mention of David Beckham's scathing remark added fuel to the fire, reinforcing the perception of a brewing feud within the family. Even the banquet menu seemed to take on symbolic significance in the media's eyes. The German dishes, crafted with precision, were paralleled with the Cambridges' refined presence. Analysts drew metaphors between the perfect balance of flavors and the couple's ability to balance grace with approachability. Social commentators, not surprisingly, painted Harry and Meghan as the polar opposite, unchecked, unpredictable, and, some argued, emotionally reactive. But beyond the public praise and social media frenzy, there was a more subtle, almost invisible drama unfolding. Royal insiders hinted that the success of the Cambridges at the banquet was not accidental. It was the result of long-term planning, strategic guidance, and a keen awareness of optics. Every public appearance is scrutinized, yes, but the Cambridges had mastered the art of anticipation. They understood the power of timing, image, and narrative. Every nod, every smile, every carefully chosen word was part of a broader story designed to solidify their legacy as future king and queen consort. This level of mastery did not go unnoticed by the public or the palace. Observers noted the contrast between the calm, composed aura of William and Kate and the often tumultuous media coverage surrounding Harry and Meghan. The German banquet became a stage on which these contrasts were made painfully visible. While William and Kate's image seemed untouchable, the Sussexes were painted as increasingly vulnerable to criticism, their every reaction scrutinized and interpreted. Yet the drama didn't end with applause and accolades. According to sources close to the palace, the Sussexes' reaction to the coverage was intense. Private conversations reportedly included frustration, disbelief, and feelings of betrayal, not just toward the media, but toward figures like David Beckham, whose comments added public weight to the scrutiny. Their absence, though physically distant, was emotionally charged, creating a storm of speculation and rumor that threatened to overshadow the very image they sought to protect. As the banquet concluded, William and Kate departed amid a flurry of camera flashes and polite applause from their hosts. They had successfully reinforced their public image while maintaining an aura of approachability. The world celebrated them as the ideal embodiment of contemporary royalty. Poised, articulate, and effortlessly regal. Yet, for Harry and Meghan, the event was a different story. What might have been a routine diplomatic engagement became a mirror reflecting everything they had left behind and everything they might still crave: public recognition, respect, and validation. The German state banquet, in other words, was more than an event. It was a symbolic battlefield, one that highlighted the chasm between two sets of royals. William and Kate's performance was a triumph of discipline, grace, and strategic vision. Harry and Meghan's absence, combined with Beckham's scathing public remarks, created a narrative of frustration, envy, and impending drama. The world had witnessed a moment that could define public perception for years to come. And as the cameras stopped flashing and the last speeches were made, one question lingered over the royal family like a shadow: how would Harry and Meghan respond? Would they retreat further into their private sphere, or would they strike back in ways that could escalate the tension even further? The stage was set, the players were in position, and the world was watching. When David Beckham spoke, the royal world shifted in an instant. One seemingly casual remark, uttered during a televised interview, set off a chain reaction that no one saw coming. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are clowns. William and Kate, true royals. The words were simple, yet the impact was explosive. In the blink of an eye, they dominated headlines, social media feeds, and water-cooler conversations worldwide. And while Beckham may have intended it as an offhand observation, it became a seismic moment in the ongoing saga of the royal family. Beckham's influence cannot be overstated. He is more than a retired footballer. He is a global icon whose words resonate across continents. Known for his charm, discipline, and impeccable public image, Beckham is a figure whose opinions are taken seriously, whether in fashion, sports, or celebrity culture. When someone of his stature publicly critiques a member of the royal family, it's no longer just gossip. It becomes news with weight, authority, and global reach. And in this case, Beckham's comments couldn't have landed at a more dramatic moment: the day after William and Kate dazzled at the German state banquet. The media frenzy was immediate. News outlets scrambled to dissect every syllable, headline writers competing to craft the most attention-grabbing spin. Twitter erupted, Instagram exploded, and Facebook threads filled with heated debates. Hashtags such as #ClownRoyals and #TrueRoyals trended worldwide. Memes proliferated at lightning speed, some sympathetic to the Sussexes, others reveling in their public chastisement. Every mention of the words clown and royal became a spark, igniting conversations about image, authenticity, and the evolving role of royalty in the 21st century. But beyond the public reaction, the real story lay behind the scenes. According to insiders, Harry and Meghan were livid. Sources close to the couple reported private messages, heated phone calls, and tense conversations that revealed a mix of shock, anger, and humiliation. To hear such a pointed attack from someone who once shared friendly connections with the family, Beckham had attended charity events with Harry and Meghan, had been photographed with them at numerous high-profile occasions, was more than a slight. It was a direct challenge to their credibility, status, and personal dignity. The emotional intensity of the moment is difficult to overstate. Harry, who has long struggled with his public image and constant media scrutiny, reportedly viewed Beckham's remarks as a personal attack. Meghan, whose own relationship with the press has been fraught with tension and legal battles, was equally incensed. Sources describe private discussions marked by frustration, incredulity, and a sense of betrayal. How could someone outside the family, an ally by association, so publicly humiliate them? And why now, when their efforts to redefine their image seem to be gaining traction? The context only made the blow more piercing. William and Kate's German banquet performance had been flawless, a masterclass in diplomacy and royal poise. Headlines praised their elegance, their composure, and their ability to embody everything the monarchy represents. In comparison, Harry and Meghan's recent media appearances, social media campaigns, and public statements were suddenly reframed under Beckham's critique. Their struggles to maintain a narrative of independence, influence, and celebrity relevance were exposed as fragility and, in some eyes, theatricality. In short, the clown label was not just an insult. It was a public judgment, amplified by timing, visibility, and the stature of the person delivering it. But Beckham's comment was only the spark. What followed was a wave of public analysis that dissected every aspect of the couple's persona. Social media users compared the Sussexes' public appearances to those of the Cambridges, highlighting differences in composure, style, and charisma. News outlets published side-by-side images of the two couples, emphasizing William and Kate's poise versus Harry and Meghan's sometimes chaotic public persona. Royal commentators debated endlessly about the underlying causes, weighing issues of personality, upbringing, and the pressures of fame. Every conversation, every headline, reinforced the narrative that Harry and Meghan had fallen short in comparison. For the Sussexes, the insult carried emotional weight. Beyond pride and image, there was a deep sense of relational betrayal. Beckham had been part of their circle of support, a figure who had participated in charitable endeavors, attended events, and shared moments of camaraderie. To hear him publicly castigate them as clowns was more than a headline. It was a perceived personal attack. Friends and acquaintances describe a private world of agitation. Texts left unanswered, tense discussions with advisors, and a sense of urgency to control the narrative before it spiraled further. Every social media reaction felt amplified, every viral post a reminder that the world was watching and judging. The public response only intensified the drama. Memes mocking Harry and Meghan's perceived theatrics flooded platforms. Tweets ridiculed the couple's fashion choices, social media posts, and past statements, framing them as unserious or performative. Meanwhile, praise for William and Kate grew exponentially. Headlines and viral posts positioned them as exemplars of modern royalty, bridging tradition and relatability with elegance. The contrast between the two couples was stark, and the public appetite for commentary seemed insatiable. Yet behind the humor and viral commentary, there were subtle, powerful stakes at play. The royal family is not merely a social institution. It is an international symbol, a representation of history, tradition, and national identity. Public perception influences trust, respect, and even diplomatic leverage. A remark like Beckham's, though casual in delivery, had implications far beyond celebrity gossip. It reinforced divisions within the family, validated critics of the Sussexes, and highlighted the ongoing tension between individual celebrity ambitions and institutional expectation. Insiders suggest that Harry and Meghan's response was strategic as well as emotional. Meetings with publicists, advisors, and friends reportedly aimed to craft a measured, effective reaction that would protect their image without exacerbating the public feud. Yet the emotional reality was unavoidable. Sources describe moments of frustration, sharp words, and private expressions of indignation. Even small details, a glance at a phone, a text left unanswered, a social media post delayed, became symbolic in a narrative that had taken on a life of its own. Every day seemed to deepen the sense of tension and urgency, each moment a reminder that Beckham's comment had pierced more than just public opinion. It had touched nerves that were already raw. The impact extended further. Royal historians and cultural commentators weighed in, analyzing the remarks as more than personal criticism. They examined the broader implications for public perception, family cohesion, and the evolving role of monarchy in modern society. Comparisons with historical royal scandals, moments when family discord became public, or when outsiders influenced perception, were inevitable. The clown comment was situated within a continuum of royal challenges. Scrutiny, media pressure, and the delicate balance of public and private identity. And yet, for all the analysis and commentary, one detail remained unclear: how Harry and Meghan would respond. Would they retreat further into their private world, avoiding confrontation and preserving distance from public criticism? Or would they strike back, asserting control over their narrative in a way that could escalate the feud to unprecedented levels? The suspense was palpable. Every move, every decision, every statement from the Sussexes had the potential to amplify the story, shift public opinion, and intensify the already high-stakes drama surrounding the family. Beckham's remark, in other words, was more than a single sentence. It was a catalyst, a trigger for emotions, strategies, and speculation that would dominate headlines for weeks. It forced a reckoning with questions the Sussexes had long avoided. How are we perceived? Who controls our narrative? And what is the cost of breaking from tradition while pursuing independence, fame, and influence? The answers would not come easily, and the fallout would be as dramatic as it was unpredictable. As the world debated, speculated, and shared opinions at lightning speed, Harry and Meghan were left to confront the consequences. Their personal and public identities collided in ways that were impossible to ignore. And just when it seemed the storm might pass, a new leak, a new insider comment, or a new social media post threatened to reignite the fire, reminding everyone that in the world of modern royalty, no insult is ever truly private. The stage was set for the next dramatic act. Harry and Meghan were at a crossroads, and the world was watching every tense, loaded step. The moment David Beckham's words hit the media, a storm quietly erupted behind the closed doors of Harry and Meghan's home. For the outside world, it might have seemed like just another headline, a celebrity criticizing another celebrity-turned-royal couple, but insiders say the reality was far more explosive. Anger, frustration, and disbelief simmered into full-blown fury. Text messages flew, phone calls escalated, and what had begun as a single public comment became a private crisis that no spin doctor could immediately contain. Harry, by all accounts, was incandescent. Sources close to the Sussexes describe him pacing, muttering, and rereading every word Beckham had uttered. It wasn't just the insult, it was the timing, the public nature, and the implied contrast to his brother and sister-in-law. Clowns wasn't merely an insult. It was a public condemnation of his life choices, his marriage, and his post-royal endeavors. And worse, it came from someone who had once shared camaraderie with him, attended charity events alongside him, and had been considered part of the extended circle of allies. The perceived betrayal cut deep. Meghan's reaction, insiders report, was equally intense but more calculated. She reportedly moved quickly to strategize a response, consulting her inner circle of advisors, PR experts, and close confidants. Her fury was tempered by a meticulous awareness of optics, but the emotional spike was undeniable. Friends close to her described private expressions of outrage, discussions that lasted hours, and a sense of disbelief that someone so prominent and seemingly friendly could so publicly undermine them. One source noted, "She doesn't forget, and she doesn't forgive easily, especially when it's someone who was once in your corner." The private fury wasn't just emotional, it was deeply personal. Harry and Meghan have spent years navigating the precarious line between celebrity status and royal expectation. Every move, every statement, every public appearance has been under scrutiny. Beckham's comment, therefore, represented more than criticism. It was validation of fears they had long struggled with, that the world, and even their former allies, viewed them as outsiders, performers, and, in the worst case, frivolous or insincere. The fury, sources say, quickly spilled into heated discussions within their private circles. Close friends recounted scenes of frustration, phones slammed down, voices raised, and advisors trying desperately to maintain calm. Every news story amplifying Beckham's statement became a fresh irritant. Every viral meme mocking the couple added fuel to a fire they struggled to contain. They were caught between two realities: the desire to respond decisively and the need to avoid further public embarrassment. Behind closed doors, the tension was magnified by historical grievances. Harry, in particular, reportedly felt a resurgence of sibling rivalry and unresolved tension with William. The comment highlighted an uncomfortable comparison. William and Kate, celebrated globally for their poise, versus Harry and Meghan, vilified, or at least criticized, by powerful public figures. The perception of inferiority or judgment from someone as universally respected as Beckham only deepened existing insecurities. Conversations with close friends reportedly included phrases like, "We're constantly being judged," and "Why do they get the accolades we never seem to earn?" These private moments revealed a layer of vulnerability rarely seen by the public. Yet, as private fury intensified, Meghan began transitioning from emotional reaction to strategic planning. Sources indicate that she quickly convened discussions with advisors, exploring ways to control the narrative, minimize damage, and perhaps even strike back subtly. Her approach was methodical, analyzing media coverage, anticipating social media responses, and weighing the potential risks of every public move. Every action was measured, every word considered, yet the emotional undertone remained, a simmering frustration that something so personal had become a worldwide spectacle. Insiders also note that the couple's staff played a crucial role in mediating these private emotions. Personal assistants, PR managers, and security personnel reportedly found themselves navigating tense conversations, managing emails, and deflecting unwanted inquiries. The pressure was relentless, the environment charged with unspoken stress. For Harry and Meghan, the personal and professional collided in ways that magnified every minor slight. A single offhand comment could set off an internal crisis, and Beckham's public words did precisely that. Interestingly, this private fury also had public ramifications. The Sussexes' social media activity, though carefully curated, reflected subtle hints of agitation. Observers noted cryptic posts, delayed responses to engagement opportunities, and carefully worded statements that hinted at indignation without fully revealing their reaction. The interplay between private fury and public persona created a tension that captivated media outlets, fueling speculation and intrigue. Every follower, every journalist, every commentator was left wondering, how would they respond, and when? The emotional spike wasn't limited to anger or frustration. There was also a profound sense of humiliation. Sources describe Harry and Meghan expressing disbelief that someone like Beckham, a figure admired and respected by millions, would frame them in such a damaging light. The sting of the word clown was magnified by its delivery from someone outside the family, but within their perceived circle of support. It was, insiders claim, a moment that exposed raw insecurities and reignited long-standing fears about public perception, legacy, and relevance. Yet amidst this private fury, a narrative of control emerged. Meghan, in particular, reportedly emphasized strategy over pure emotion. Sources indicate discussions about potential interviews, carefully timed public statements, and subtle ways to reclaim the narrative. Every reaction, every plan, every decision was weighed against the risk of further backlash. While anger motivated, strategy guided. The Sussexes were learning, sometimes painfully, how to balance emotional response with public consequence, knowing that a single misstep could have global repercussions. At the heart of this private storm was a more profound question. How does one reconcile personal pride with public scrutiny? Harry and Meghan had long sought to establish independence from the traditional structures of royalty, pursuing media projects, philanthropic efforts, and entrepreneurial ventures. Yet Beckham's words forced a confrontation with the very public they hoped to impress. Their achievements, however genuine, were reframed as performative, superficial, or even laughable. The insult struck at both identity and ambition, a dual blow that intensified their internal struggle. The fury also had a ripple effect on their social circles. Friends, family members, and advisors were drawn into the emotional whirlwind, each discussion adding another layer to the tension. Allegiances were tested, strategies debated, and loyalties questioned. Insiders describe a dynamic where even minor disagreements were amplified by the pressure of public perception. Every decision became weighted with consequence, every word a potential headline. The private fury was not confined to the couple alone. It radiated outward, affecting everyone in their immediate orbit. And yet, as intense as the private anger was, there remained a sense of anticipation, a question that hovered over every action. How would the Sussexes ultimately respond? Would they retreat, absorb the criticism silently, and hope the storm passed? Or would they strike back, unleashing a calculated response designed to reclaim authority, assert dignity, and perhaps even challenge the narrative Beckham had established? The suspense was tangible. Every advisor's meeting, every private conversation, and every social media scroll carried the weight of this looming decision. The German banquet had already contrasted William and Kate's flawless composure against Harry and Meghan's absence. Beckham's comment had added fuel to a fire that had been smoldering for months, intensifying emotions and forcing the Sussexes to confront realities they had long tried to control. The private fury, then, was not just a personal reaction. It was the ignition point for the next chapter in a saga that had already captivated the world. As night fell, and the public spotlight shifted away from the German banquet, the Sussexes were left to navigate the fallout of the day's events. The emotional storm continued, layered with strategy, indignation, and uncertainty. Behind the glittering facades of palaces and the polished smiles of public appearances, a storm of whispered conversations had begun to circulate. David Beckham's damning remark about Harry and Meghan was no longer just a media spectacle. It had become a topic of private discussion within the royal family itself. Insiders reveal that behind closed doors, the corridors of Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and Frogmore House were buzzing with speculation, opinions, and subtle tensions that had been simmering for years. The Cambridges, fresh from their triumphant appearance at the German state banquet, were reportedly aware of the comment almost immediately. William, who has long maintained a careful balance between family loyalty and public diplomacy, faced a complex emotional landscape. On one hand, he had witnessed his brother's continued struggles with public perception. On the other, he understood the delicate optics of responding to a private insult made public by a celebrity. Sources suggest William's first response was measured, an inward sigh, a private conversation with Kate, and a deep consideration of how to navigate the inevitable fallout. The couple's instinct was to maintain dignity, to let their actions speak louder than any commentary, yet the awareness of family tension remained palpable. Kate, always the keen observer of interpersonal dynamics, reportedly sensed the potential ripple effects almost immediately. Insiders describe her quietly advising William on how to handle not just media inquiries, but also Harry and Meghan's likely emotional response. She understood that any misstep, either in public statement or private correspondence, could escalate the situation dramatically. Her approach, as always, was rooted in empathy coupled with strategic foresight. She recognized that David Beckham's remark would be more than a headline. It would be a catalyst, drawing out the unresolved tensions that had long existed within the family. Meanwhile, whispers of Harry and Meghan's private fury began circulating among palace aides, courtiers, and extended family members. Sources describe a tense atmosphere, where personal feelings were intertwined with public perception. Advisors speculated on whether the Sussexes would respond publicly or maintain their silence. Some suggested that Meghan, in particular, was formulating a strategy that could reclaim narrative control, while Harry wrestled with the emotional weight of the insult, balancing pride and frustration with the desire for dignity. The private tension within the family mirrored the public spectacle, creating a dual narrative of conflict both visible and hidden. Adding complexity to the situation were subtle power dynamics. Insiders note that palace staff and royal advisors often act as intermediaries in these situations, attempting to mitigate tension while managing the optics. In this case, conversations reportedly included discreet questions. Should a formal response be issued? Should the family privately counsel Harry and Meghan? Or is silence the best course to preserve unity? Every option carried risks, as any public acknowledgement could be interpreted as taking sides or escalating the feud. The stakes were higher than ever, given the global attention and the sharp contrasts between the Cambridges' triumphs and the Sussexes' vulnerabilities. Royal historians observing these private dynamics have noted that the situation was reminiscent of past family tensions, though amplified by the modern media ecosystem. In previous eras, disagreements and rivalries were often contained within palace walls, shielded from public scrutiny. Today, social media, instantaneous news reporting, and celebrity commentary create an environment where private emotions can become global headlines within minutes. The combination of historical tension and modern exposure made Beckham's comment uniquely volatile, setting the stage for both public spectacle and private drama. Even subtle gestures between the family members became loaded with meaning. Observers noted that in recent video clips and photos, interactions between William and Harry had a cautious, measured quality. Handshakes were firm but formal, smiles appeared calculated, and moments of casual banter seemed deliberately restrained. While the Cambridges exuded composure, there was an awareness of underlying tension, a recognition that every public movement could be analyzed and interpreted by a global audience. Sources suggest that David Beckham's remark intensified this hyper-awareness, creating a feedback loop of scrutiny, anticipation, and strategic restraint. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan's response, or lack thereof, became a topic of whispered debate within the palace. Some family members reportedly expressed concern that silence could be interpreted as weakness, while others believed any response might escalate tensions unnecessarily. The dynamic was fraught. Familial loyalty, personal pride, and public perception were all in constant interplay. Sources describe private moments of exasperation among courtiers who found themselves navigating a minefield of emotions, strategy, and optics, trying to maintain both decorum and stability. Insiders also reveal that the wider royal family began reflecting on historical patterns of public criticism and private conflict. Moments from previous generations, where comments from friends, celebrities, or advisors ignited tension, were brought into private discussions as lessons and cautionary tales. These historical parallels reinforce the sense that Beckham's remark, while seemingly casual, could have long-term implications. Every whisper, every private discussion, every subtle observation was now a piece in a larger puzzle of reputation, loyalty, and family cohesion. At the heart of these whispers was a central tension: how to balance familial relationships with public expectation. The Cambridges' composed performance at the German state banquet was already setting a narrative of stability, grace, and reliability. In contrast, Harry and Meghan's private fury risked reinforcing narratives of volatility, insecurity, and instability. The palace was acutely aware that public perception matters, not just for individual reputations, but for the monarchy as an institution. Every reaction, from private counsel to public statement, could shift global opinion. Yet the whispers were not limited to strategy and optics. Sources suggest that they were also tinged with emotional observation. Family members reportedly discussed Harry and Meghan's sense of exclusion, their repeated struggles with public criticism, and the delicate balance of independence versus loyalty. There was an understanding, though unspoken, that while Beckham's words were harsh, they touched on real vulnerabilities that had been simmering for years. Emotional undercurrents, unspoken fears, and family history all converged in private discussions, creating a nuanced, complex, and highly charged atmosphere. Adding to the drama, insiders claimed that some family members speculated about potential counteractions from the Sussexes. Would they issue a statement? Engage the media indirectly? Make public appearances designed to challenge the clown narrative? The uncertainty created a palpable tension. The palace, accustomed to managing protocol, tradition, and image, now faced an unpredictable dynamic where emotions, celebrity influence, and media scrutiny intersected in ways never before experienced. By the time the evening settled, one truth had become undeniable. The whispers were a sign of deeper fissures. David Beckham's remark was not just a personal insult. It was a catalyst that illuminated vulnerabilities, insecurities, and latent rivalries. It forced the royal family to confront difficult questions about loyalty, perception, and strategy. How should Harry and Meghan respond without further destabilizing family unity? How could the Cambridges maintain their poised public image while navigating private tensions? And what unseen consequences might ripple outward from this seemingly simple, yet profoundly impactful, statement? The answers were uncertain. Every whispered conversation carried weight, and every decision had potential consequences. The palace was poised on the edge of a delicate equilibrium, one where a single misstep could ignite media frenzy, deepen family divides, or alter public perception in unexpected ways. The whispers in the corridors were more than idle chatter. They were the early signals of a drama that was only just beginning to unfold. As night fell across London and the cameras stopped flashing, the palace remained a hive of quiet speculation. Family members exchanged subtle glances, advisors whispered cautions, and courtiers anticipated the next move. The stage was set, and the world was watching. The question that hung in the air, heavy and unspoken, was simple yet profound. How would Harry and Meghan navigate the storm Beckham had unleashed? And what would happen when private fury met public consequence? The morning after David Beckham's comment, the digital world erupted. Social media platforms were flooded with reactions, opinions, and memes, each more sensational than the last. Twitter users dissected the remark. Instagram pages created countdowns of past Harry and Meghan controversies, and TikTok creators crafted viral skits portraying the couple as exaggerated caricatures. Every media outlet, from tabloids to international news channels, covered the story, amplifying it with headlines designed to maximize clicks. Clowns versus true royals. Beckham's bombshell comment dominated screens and feeds worldwide. The speed and scale of the reaction were unprecedented. In mere hours, hashtags like #ClownsOrRoyals, #Harry and Meghan, and #David Beckham trending flooded every platform. Social media influencers with millions of followers jumped into the debate, weighing in on fashion choices, public appearances, and past statements. The line between humor and critique blurred, as memes mocked the Sussexes' public persona while simultaneously praising William and Kate's measured elegance. Each share, like, and comment acted as a magnifying glass, intensifying public scrutiny. What was striking, sources report, was the contrast between different demographic reactions. Younger audiences often engaged with memes and viral content, amplifying the clown narrative through humor, satire, and pop culture references. Older audiences, particularly those invested in traditional royal values, interpreted Beckham's comment as an accurate reflection of the Sussexes' approach to monarchy. Across forums, comment sections, and talk shows, people debated the legitimacy of the insult. Are Harry and Meghan really clowns? Became a global question. Some argued that the couple's media-savvy moves and independent ventures were strategic and forward-thinking. Others viewed them as disruptive, attention-seeking, and lacking the dignity expected of royalty. Meanwhile, news organizations capitalized on the moment, producing endless analyses. Panel discussions on British television dissected the remark line by line. Experts compared William and Kate's German banquet performance to Harry and Meghan's recent appearances. Every nuance, from Kate's poise to Meghan's social media presence, was scrutinized, magnified, and debated. Headlines screamed, "True royals shine while clowns falter," and Beckham calls out Sussexes. Are they losing credibility? Each story was carefully designed to provoke engagement, ensuring that viewers remained hooked, click after click. Public reaction wasn't confined to traditional media. International coverage exploded as well. News outlets in Europe, North America, and Asia reported the story, framing it as a clash between celebrity culture and traditional monarchy. Analysts suggested that Beckham's global influence lent weight to his remark, making it more than a simple insult. It became a discussion about authenticity, legacy, and the evolving role of modern royals. Some outlets even speculated about diplomatic implications, questioning whether public perception of the monarchy might shift due to the high-profile controversy. Online communities also became hotbeds of debate. Reddit threads comparing William and Kate's calm composure with Harry and Meghan's perceived volatility grew rapidly, some threads exceeding tens of thousands of comments. Fan pages dedicated to the Cambridges celebrated their true royal status, posting side-by-side images, video clips, and glowing commentary. Meanwhile, pro-Sussex communities scrambled to defend the couple, issuing arguments about media bias, historical context, and unfair scrutiny. The public discourse became a virtual battleground, fueled by emotion, loyalty, and virality. Interestingly, some reactions hinted at deeper societal dynamics. Cultural commentators noted that Beckham's comment touched on issues beyond mere personal critique. It highlighted generational divides in expectations of royalty, gendered scrutiny, and the tension between celebrity culture and traditional monarchy. Discussions arose about authenticity versus performance, private emotion versus public image, and the challenges of balancing independence with institutional responsibility. The debate became not just about the individuals, but about broader societal ideas of leadership, image, and respect. Harry and Meghan's advisors reportedly monitored the reaction with intense focus. Every viral post, tweet, and news headline was analyzed for potential impact on their reputation. Private meetings were held to discuss whether to respond, ignore, or subtly counter the narrative. The challenge was immense. Respond too forcefully, and the couple risked escalating the feud. Remain silent, and the public perception of weakness or validation of the insult could take hold. Sources described tense sessions where even minor details, a caption, a retweet, or an Instagram story, were debated for hours, illustrating the high stakes of public perception management in the digital age. Memes played an outsized role in shaping the narrative. One viral image juxtaposed Harry and Meghan's controversial appearances against William and Kate's German Banquet elegance, with a caption reading, "Guess which ones are the clowns?" Within hours, it had been shared millions of times. These visual narratives had a unique impact because they simplified complex family dynamics into digestible and viral content. Humor became a weapon, amplifying criticism while entertaining global audiences. Meanwhile, public opinion polls began reflecting the impact of Beckham's comment. Some surveys indicated a measurable drop in favorability for Harry and Meghan, while William and Kate experienced a rise in positive perception. Analysts suggested that while Beckham's comment alone did not fully sway public opinion, it catalyzed existing narratives and perceptions, accelerating discussions that had been brewing for months. Every media cycle, every viral post, and every public reaction became a feedback loop reinforcing the contrasting narratives of the two couples. The online explosion also had real-world consequences. Celebrities, influencers, and journalists weighed in, creating a cascading effect of visibility and scrutiny. Harry and Meghan's business ventures, charitable efforts, and public statements were suddenly re-evaluated through the lens of Beckham's remark. Media outlets dug into archives, highlighting moments of perceived missteps, contradictions, or controversies. Meanwhile, William and Kate's appearances were lauded for elegance, consistency, and measured public engagement. The contrast became a self-perpetuating cycle. Criticism fueled defense, praise amplified comparison, and every action fed the narrative of clowns versus true royals. Amid the global reaction, the Sussexes faced an unprecedented challenge: managing emotion while controlling perception. Sources report that private discussions included strategy sessions about selective public statements, calculated appearances, and carefully curated social media engagement. Meghan reportedly advocated for assertive, strategic communication, while Harry wrestled with balancing pride, indignation, and diplomacy. The tension was palpable, as every move had potential consequences both for personal reputation and family dynamics. Yet for all the strategic planning and debate, the emotional impact of the public reaction remained potent. The couple's private fury was magnified by the speed, scale, and intensity of the global response. Each viral meme, each trending hashtag, each critical headline became a reinforcement of the insult, leaving the Sussexes to navigate a storm that blended personal grievance with public spectacle. The digital age had made it impossible to isolate emotion from perception. The two were inseparable, feeding off each other in an endless loop of scrutiny and reaction. As the world continued to discuss, debate, and dissect, one question dominated the conversation: how would Harry and Meghan respond? Would they retreat further, letting public perception solidify the narrative? Or would they strike back, crafting a carefully calculated response designed to reclaim control, challenge critics, and assert dignity? Every observer knew the stakes were high. This wasn't just about a celebrity insult. It was about reputation, legacy, and the perception of the monarchy itself in the eyes of a global audience. And just when it seemed the public reaction had reached its peak, a new leak surfaced. An insider comment, A private conversation revealed a social media hint that threatened to push the story into uncharted territory. After days of simmering private fury and watching the world dissect every angle of Beckham's comment, Harry and Meghan finally made their first public move. But as insiders reveal, this response was not spontaneous. It was the result of meticulous planning, late-night strategy sessions, and countless debates with advisors about tone, timing, and impact. Every word was chosen to convey poise, dignity, and authority, while subtly challenging the narrative of clowns versus true royals. The statement, released via social media, carried a calm, controlled tone. It did not directly name Beckham or confront him aggressively. Instead, it framed the couple's position in terms of resilience, personal growth, and commitment to their work and charitable endeavors. Lines emphasizing service, family, and authenticity sought to counteract the ridicule without escalating conflict. Yet beneath the surface of politeness, there was a carefully embedded challenge. A signal that the Sussexes were neither defeated nor silenced by criticism, and that their critics would need more than an offhand insult to diminish them. Insiders described the moment of release as highly charged. Meghan, according to sources, oversaw the final drafting, scrutinizing each sentence, phrase, and punctuation mark. She wanted a statement that reflected both personal strength and strategic messaging. An assertion that while the couple could feel the sting of criticism, they were ultimately in control of their narrative. Harry, meanwhile, added his own emphasis on dignity, ensuring that the response maintained composure while subtly addressing the underlying issue: public perception and unfair comparison. The public reception was immediate and polarized. Social media lit up with commentary, analysis, and debate. Supporters praised the statement for its dignity and subtle strength, framing it as a lesson in measured response. Critics, however, interpreted the statement as defensive, arguing that it failed to adequately confront the criticism or reclaim the narrative. Memes and viral posts continued to circulate, some reframing the statement as evidence of the couple's vulnerability, while others highlighted the calculated sophistication behind every word. The digital landscape, as always, magnified and complicated the impact. Behind the scenes, the Sussexes' advisors worked tirelessly to monitor the fallout. Every tweet, post, and news article was analyzed, measured, and interpreted. Potential missteps were identified and mitigated, ensuring that the message remained consistent across platforms and audiences. The team's goal was to maintain the balance between personal authenticity and public control, acknowledging criticism without being consumed by it, and subtly shifting the narrative from ridicule to resilience. At the palace, the statement did not go unnoticed. Sources reveal that William and Kate observed the release closely, noting the careful balance of tone and strategy. While no public response from the Cambridges was issued, insiders suggest that private discussions took place regarding the statement's implications for family dynamics and public perception. The contrast between the couple's approaches, one celebrated for composure, the other scrutinized for vulnerability and strategy, fueled continued debate behind palace doors. The statement also had international repercussions. Media outlets in Europe, North America, and Asia ran analyses of every line, exploring the subtleties, implications, and potential hidden messages. Some commentators praised the Sussexes' control over their image, framing the response as a masterclass in modern public relations. Others argued that the statement exposed underlying insecurities, creating a narrative of defensiveness and tension. Regardless of interpretation, it was clear that the couple's carefully crafted message had succeeded in reigniting global attention. Insiders reveal that the Sussexes were acutely aware that this response would not end the controversy. In fact, some advisors framed the statement as a strategic first move, a calculated signal to critics and supporters alike that Harry and Meghan were not passive participants in the public discourse. It was designed to assert agency, maintain dignity, and set the stage for subsequent actions that would further reclaim their narrative, challenge critics, and subtly shift public perception. The emotional stakes were as high as the strategic considerations. Sources describe moments after the release when Harry and Meghan privately reflected on the impact, scrutinizing media coverage, reading social media commentary, and debating potential next steps. The couple reportedly oscillated between relief, satisfaction, and renewed frustration, realizing that while the statement had addressed the immediate criticism, it had also reignited attention on the underlying tensions within the family and the global media landscape. Public reaction evolved in real time. Supportive voices amplified the narrative of resilience, praising the couple for rising above insults and asserting their authenticity. At the same time, detractors continued to frame the narrative in terms of clowns versus true royals, highlighting perceived contradictions in behavior, messaging, and public appearances. Memes adapted to include elements of the response, creating new viral content that further complicated the public discourse. Every reaction reinforced the high-stakes nature of modern celebrity and monarchy, where personal emotion, strategic messaging, and public perception intersect in unpredictable ways. The first public response also triggered speculation about future actions. Would Harry and Meghan embark on a campaign to redefine their image further? Would they address private grievances more openly, or maintain a careful balance between personal dignity and strategic restraint? Advisors reportedly discussed potential interviews, public appearances, and social media initiatives designed to strengthen their narrative, challenge critics, and highlight their charitable work. Every possibility was considered, weighed, and analyzed in terms of impact, risk, and long-term perception. Yet for all the careful planning and strategic intent, one reality remained undeniable. The emotional undertone was still potent. The private fury that had ignited following Beckham's remark continued to simmer beneath the surface. Every headline, every meme, every analysis reminded the Sussexes of the criticism they faced. While their response had projected control, resilience, and dignity,